Ambassador James Reeves had prepared for many things during his diplomatic mission to the Viridian colony: tense negotiations, cultural misunderstandings, maybe even hostility. What he hadn't prepared for was this. The young Viridian woman standing before him, her lavender skin flushed a deeper violet with what he could only interpret as embarrassment, gestured helplessly at the walls of her quarters. Every surface was covered with human artifacts. Movie posters from Earth's golden age of cinema. Sketches of human faces, remarkably detailed. A collection of vintage vinyl records carefully displayed. Even a half-finished painting of the Eiffel Tower propped against her desk. "This isn't what it looks like," Kira stammered, her crystalline eyes, usually so composed in the official meetings, now darting around nervously. Her fingers twisted together, a gesture he'd learned meant acute discomfort in her species. James couldn't help the smile that spread across his face. "Really? Because it looks like you're a huge fan of humans." She bit her lower lip, revealing the slight points of her teeth. "There was a mix-up with the quarters. You weren't supposed to see. I mean, this is my private space." He stepped further into the room, fascinated. On her nightstand sat a well-worn copy of Pride and Prejudice, with handwritten notes in the margins in both English and Viridian script. "How long have you been studying us?" "Since I was young." Her voice softened, some of the embarrassment fading as passion replaced it. "I found an old Earth transmission, a documentary about your oceans. The way sunlight moved through the water, the creatures, the vastness. I'd never seen anything like it. We have water on Viridia, but nothing like your seas." James picked up a small clay figure from her shelf, a crude but endearing attempt at sculpting a human form. "Did you make this?" "When I was 12. She moved closer, the scent of something like jasmine and electricity emanating from her skin. "I wanted to understand your proportions, your structure. Everything about humans seemed so different. Beautiful." The word hung between them. James set down the figure carefully, suddenly aware of how intimate this moment felt. Here he was, the first human most Viridians had seen in person, standing in the private shrine of someone who'd spent her life dreaming about his species. "I've been assigned as your cultural liaison," Kira continued, straightening her posture in an attempt to regain professionalism. "The council thought my knowledge of human customs would be valuable. They don't know about—" She waved at the room, "the extent of my interest. Your secret's safe with me." James extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting he'd been too surprised to offer earlier. "Though I have to say, I'm honored. And maybe a little curious about what else you've learned about us." When her cool, smooth hand met his, neither pulled away as quickly as protocol might suggest. Over the following weeks, what began as professional liaison work evolved into something neither could quite define. Kira showed James the bioluminescent gardens of Viridia, where plants sang in harmonic frequencies at dusk. He taught her to dance the waltz in the privacy of her quarters, laughing as she tried to match the rhythm of Earth music. "We don't touch like this," she murmured one evening as they swayed to an old jazz record, her body close enough that he could feel the subtle electric pulse of her nervous system. Physical contact in Viridian culture is reserved. "Should I stop?" James's hand rested on the small of her back, where her skin was warmest. "No." Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I've read about this. Human intimacy through dance. I wanted to experience it." Her admission sent a thrill through him. Everything with Kira felt like unwrapping a gift, discovering that this beautiful alien woman hadn't just studied humans academically, but yearned to experience their world sensually, emotionally. That night, as the artificial stars of the colony dome glittered above them, they sat on her balcony sharing wine. His from Earth, hers from Viridian vineyards. The alcohol loosened their tongues. "Tell me something true," Kira said, her crystalline eyes reflecting the starlight. "Why did you volunteer for this mission? No one leaves Earth for a 3-year assignment unless they're running from something or toward something." James considered her question, the wine making him honest. "Toward something, I suppose. I wanted to matter. To be part of something bigger than myself." He paused. "Your turn. Why humans? Why not study the Thoraxians or the Aquilans?" Kira's fingers traced the rim of her glass. Because you feel things so intensely. Your art, your music, your literature, it's all so raw with emotion. Viridians are taught control, composure. But humans, you let yourselves feel. And you want that? She set down her glass and turned to face him fully. I want to know what it's like to be that alive. The space between them seemed to contract. James could see her pulse quickening at her throat, her skin shifting through subtle shades of violet. He reached out slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and cupped her face in his hand. Kira. Show me, she breathed. Show me how humans feel. Their first kiss was tentative, experimental. Her lips were softer than he expected, slightly cooler, and he could taste something sweet and foreign. When she made a small sound in the back of her throat, surprise and pleasure mixed, he deepened the kiss, feeling her melt against him. When they finally parted, both breathing hard, Kira's eyes were wide with wonder. Oh, she whispered. The books they couldn't capture? Yeah, James agreed, still holding her close. Some things you just have to experience. The diplomatic mission progressed smoothly, but James found it increasingly difficult to concentrate during official functions. Across conference tables, he'd catch Kira's eye and remember the taste of her lips, the electric feeling of her skin against his. They'd established an unspoken rule: public professionalism, private exploration. But the line was becoming harder to maintain. One evening, Kira appeared at his assigned quarters instead of her own, her usual composure fractured. The council wants to accelerate the timeline. They're sending you back to Earth in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. The news hit him like a physical blow. But we haven't finished the cultural exchange protocols. The trade agreements aren't. They think we have enough. That further delay is unnecessary. She stepped inside, letting the door seal behind her. James, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for you to leave. He crossed to her, hands finding her waist. Neither am I. Then let's not waste the time we have left. There was no hesitancy now. Their kiss was hungry, desperate, fueled by the ticking clock hanging over them. James's fingers found the fastenings of her formal tunic while she fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, both of them laughing breathlessly at the complications of each other's clothing. Your designs are needlessly complex, she accused, finally succeeding in pushing the shirt from his shoulders. Says the woman with 14 clasps on one garment. They tumbled onto his bed, a tangle of human and viridian anatomy learning each other. Her skin felt like silk beneath his hands, the electric pulse he'd felt before now stronger, responding to her arousal. When he kissed her throat, she arched against him with a sound that was both familiar and alien. Tell me if anything, he started, but she silenced him with another kiss. I've studied this too, she whispered against his mouth. Human intimacy. I know the theory. Now I want the practice. What followed was hours of discovery, learning which touches made her shiver, which made her gasp. She explored him with equal curiosity, her cool hands mapping his body like she was memorizing terrain. When they finally joined together, her luminescent marks, usually subtle lines beneath her skin, blazed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with their movement. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her back. In Viridian culture, she said quietly, what we just did creates a bond. It's not casual for us. It means something. James tilted her chin up to meet her eyes. It means something for humans too. At least, it does for me. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. 2 weeks. We'll figure something out. But even as he said it, holding her close as she drifted into sleep, he wondered how they possibly could. He was human, she was Viridian. His life was on Earth, hers here. Some distances were too vast to bridge. Weren't they? James woke to find Kira already up, standing by his window and staring at Earth, a distant blue dot in the colony's night sky. She wore only his shirt, and something about the sight, this alien woman draped in his clothing, yearning toward his world, made his chest ache. Can't sleep? He asked. She startled slightly, then turned with a complicated expression. There's something I need to show you. Something I've kept hidden. Back in her quarters, Kira led him past the familiar displays of human memorabilia to a section of wall he'd assumed was merely decorative paneling. She pressed her palm against it, and a hidden compartment slid open. Inside was a collection of documents. Official-looking documents. And photographs of Earth, of human cities, but also of Viridian technology facilities, laboratories. "I don't understand," James said slowly. Kira took a shaky breath. "My fascination with humans, it started genuine. That documentary I told you about? That was real. But when the council learned about my interest, they recruited me. Trained me. I've been preparing for this mission, for you, for 5 years." The words felt like ice water. "You're a spy." "I'm an infiltration specialist," she corrected, then laughed bitterly at her own distinction. "I was supposed to get close to you, learn your weaknesses, gather intelligence about Earth's defensive capabilities. Everything I've done has been a lie." James stepped back. "Everything. The dancing, the conversations, the—" "No." She moved toward him urgently. "James, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It started as an assignment, but—" She grabbed his hand, pressing it against her chest where her heart, or its Viridian equivalent, beat rapidly. "This is real. What I feel for you, what we've shared, none of that was supposed to happen. I was supposed to seduce you, yes, but I wasn't supposed to fall in love." Love? The word seemed impossible given what she'd just revealed. The council's plan was to use our relationship to gain leverage, to extract information. But I can't do it anymore. She pulled out a small device from the compartment, a data pad. "This contains everything I was supposed to deliver to them. Information about your security protocols, Earth's military structure, trade vulnerabilities. I'm giving it to you instead." James stared at the device, his mind reeling. "Why?" "Because you made me feel alive, the way I always dreamed humans felt. Because these past weeks with you have been more real than my entire life before. Because—" Tears glistened in her crystalline eyes. "Because I choose you over everything I was supposed to be." He should have been furious. He should have reported her immediately, called for her arrest. Instead, he found himself asking, "What happens to you if you don't deliver the intelligence?" Her smile was sad. "Nothing good. Treason charges, Prof. Memory reconditioning at minimum. Then we run." "What?" "We have 2 weeks and a ship." He gripped her shoulders. "So we run." The diplomatic shuttle was designed for short-range travel between the colony and Earth, but James's security clearance gave him access to override protocols. While the council was occupied with end-of-mission ceremonies, he and Kira worked frantically in her quarters, packing only essentials. "There's a neutral space station," Kira said, pulling up star charts. "The Meridian Hub. No jurisdiction from either of our governments. We could disappear there." "And then what?" James sealed another container of supplies. "Spend our lives hiding?" She paused, meeting his eyes. "Would that be so terrible? If we were together?" He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "No. No, it wouldn't." They had 3 hours until the shuttle's scheduled departure. Enough time for Kira to upload false data to the council systems, making it appear she'd completed her mission. Enough time for James to record a message explaining his actions, knowing it would destroy his career but not caring. Enough time for one last walk through the bioluminescent gardens where they'd first begun to fall for each other. "Do you regret it?" Kira asked as they stood beneath the singing plants, her hand in his. "What you're giving up?" "I'm not giving up anything that matters." He turned to face her. "You know what I realized? I came to this colony looking for something that mattered, something bigger than myself. I thought it was the diplomatic mission, the alliance between our species." He brushed a strand of her silvery hair back from her face. "But it was you. It was always you." She kissed him then, deep and desperate, tasting like tears and promise and the sweet Viridian wine they'd shared that first night on her balcony. The escape itself was almost anticlimactic. The shuttle's systems accepted his overrides without question. By the time the council realized both their human ambassador and their star infiltration specialist were gone, they were already halfway to the Meridian Hub. 3 months later, in a small apartment on the station's residential level, James woke to find Kira sketching at their table. But she wasn't drawing human figures anymore. She was drawing them, him and her, together, imagining a future neither had planned. "What are you working on?" he asked, coming up behind her to wrap his arms around her waist. "A new collection," she said, leaning back against him. "Human Viridian integration art. I thought I could sell it at the station's market. Someone has to pay for this apartment." He laughed, pressing a kiss to her neck. "Very practical. I learned from the best." She tilted her head to give him better access. "Besides, I'm not just dreaming about humans anymore. I'm living with one. I should share what I've learned." "And what have you learned?" She turned in his arms, her crystalline eyes warm and full of love. "That reality is so much better than dreams." Outside their window, ships from a dozen species docked and departed, a crossroads of cultures and possibilities. Inside, a human and a Viridian built something new, not an alliance between governments, but something far more revolutionary, a future of their own choosing.